So what is a cultivar? Well, a cultivar is a certain highly prized or unusual specimen of a certain species that is repeatedly propagated for horticultural or agricultural purposes. A cultivar and variety differ in a few key ways. A cultivar is one individual cloned over and over, and therefore they are the exact same genetically. A variety is a closely related group of individuals from one species that have slight variations. Think a subspecies. The key difference is that a cultivar cannot be reproduced sexually to make the same cultivar, while a variety can be to make the same variety. So the overall goal of this project I'm launching right now is to create an improved cultivar for a native undomesticated species, which is the American plum. Following this, I'll propagate and distribute/sell the cultivar, and hopefully improve and select for better traits throughout my life. So the plan in its entirety is to plant out about 100 American plums in a 1-acre field that I've acquired. Then over a 4 to 6 year period, evaluate and rank said plums in order to select for the most vigorous, disease-resistant, best-tasting, and heavily fruiting trees. Firstly, the trees must be raised or bought. For this, the various trees must possess genetic diversity or come from various native populations, as each population is slightly different, although being from the same species. So for the first 20 trees that I got, I bought them from a local nursery. These first 20 were seed grown and collected in my locality, so they are all related in some way and should roughly resemble one another. So for the next 80 trees, I'll be raising them myself, and as of early 2021, it's an ongoing process that's been proving difficult. Wild plums are prone to going into double dormancy. This is when a temperate seed is woken up by higher temperatures. It might not want to sprout, as the warm snap could be just that, temporary. If the seed germinates during that warm snap and is killed by frost soon after, it would have not been selected for. So this is what's happening in my case. So when putting seeds in the fridge to stratify, there's always some risk to induce this double dormancy accidentally. So at current, I have sown roughly 120 American plum and 24 Mexican plums in 6-cell trays. I'm using these trays as plums do not have a taproot and will quickly be transplanted out of these cells once they germinate. These cells also help to save energy and keep track of how many trees I have to germinate at one time. As of today, the majority of the seeds have entered double dormancy. The only success I really have to show right now is one Mexican plum that did germinate, seen here. Seeing as it is winter where I am, I've just placed the cell trays outside in a protected area to go through an additional stratification until springtime. So since it'll probably be months until these trees can be field planted, I've gone ahead and already planted the first 20 in the field in mid-September of 2020. Many of these trees are showing great growth, while others have suffered more from transplant shock. I'm using 4-foot tree tubes seen here as there are a ton of deer in that field. So soon after the seeds I've sown germinate, I'll transplant them into a larger pot from the cell trays, and then eventually into the ground a couple months later. I'll eventually use the Mexican plums for rootstock for the finished cultivar, as they will not sucker, which is a great trait. So it can take an American plum anywhere from 2 to 5 years to flower from a seed, and these early fruiters and fast growers will be selected for. So I will note and chart each individual tree's strengths and weaknesses, then compare and choose the most desired few. So once we have obtained a cultivar, we'll have to name it and then propagate it. So rooting American plum cuttings is notoriously difficult, and I've tried, and it's very hard. You get a very low rooting rate. So reproduction by seed will not be true to type, so as I explained earlier, it would be more of a variety instead of a cultivar, which we don't want. We want a cultivar. So that leaves us with a few options. So the options are tissue culture, self-pollination, and grafting. Of these options, grafting seems the most viable. With grafting comes the ability to choose the rootstock, which is a great ability because you can mix 2 trees for the most desirable traits you want, like I'm going to do with the Mexican plum. So the Mexican plum does not sucker, so we will graft an American plum to the Mexican plum rootstock, and the American plum usually suckers a lot, but because it's grafted, it won't sucker. The other option of tissue culture is viable, but I'm not very skilled at it, and it's very hard to do in a home setting. So I might get a tissue culture lab to culture some of my stuff eventually, but that's in the far future. And the other option of self-pollination is easy on small scales, but on larger scales to get like 100+ seeds, it would be very hard and very time consuming. So that's basically the entire project as of now. I'll make sure to update you guys hopefully in the springtime, and we'll be taking name suggestions for the future cultivar, or cultivars, hopefully. And thank you for all the people who've helped me in this project so far, and thank you for watching. And I will make sure to upload more frequently. The reason I haven't is because I've been struggling to find a reliable editing platform, so you know how that can be. And just remember to grow native and have a good one.